out into the world and still be able to be part of the Altura University, right? So on the iPad, you could put a VPN client, okay, and you can come into through the internet, come in through your VPN infrastructure, be put on the trusted side of your network, go and register to Session Manager, and at that point you have become a SIP entity. So what does that mean, I'm a SIP entity? Well, I am natively residing on Session Manager. I am not just controlling that, I'm a native SIP entity to Session Manager. So what does that do for me? That brings me everything that SIP can afford me. Not just my phone, but it can give me my IAM, it can give me presence, it can give me video, anything and everything that SIP affords me, right? And then if you need to call out, you can still use your PSTN connectivity. So let's take the scenario that I'm out there in El Paso and I use my iPad and I VPN into my corporate network in Denver, and I want to call Gretchen. Well, what happens there is I'm making a SIP call through my IP infrastructure out to the PSTN to Gretchen. So
how do you know I'm always at home?
Well, I just
You
figured.
just got me
I
at
just
the
figured
home
you have nothing better to do, right? No, but anyway. So one long distance call from Denver to New Mexico, right? From Denver to Santa Fe, and only one trunk taken up. Now, if I want to call somebody within my campus, then 0 PSTN connections, right? Everything comes through the IP world.
If Gretchen had a VPN phone at home, no calls.
Exactly.
It's all on the network.
Absolutely. So then, what we demoed with Susie's student is the Avaya 1X SIP application. So how is that different than the other two that we've seen? Well, what you would do in this case is in the untrusted part of your network, the one facing out, you would put a session border controller, which, John, I think that was one of your questions. So you would put a session border controller there. Session border controller acts as a back-to-back user agent. So my 1X application, my 1X SIP application, registers to the session border controller. It secures it via TLS as an SRTP, and then it turns around and it registers me in a secure manner to Session Manager. So at that point, I have become a SIP entity as well. And everything that SIP and that SIP can afford me, I can be a part of. What's different between this and the previous solution is that you no longer have the complexity of a VPN solution in the middle. You are going SIP natively to the session border controller, which in turn brings you into the infrastructure. So much easier. Yes, sir.
2 questions. Is the 1X software that you put, say, on an iPhone different from the 1X software in the first example? Or is it the same product that can operate in 2 modes? When you install the application on the phone, on the mobile device.
Well,
so they're different.
They're different applications. Okay, so you need to choose which way you're going to operate. Now, the one before that, even.
Oh, they're 2 different ones.
2 different ones.
And the other thing that you have to notice is you don't see Session Manager in this picture, right?
Right.
You see a 1X mobile server. Why?
Right.
Because that client is not a SIP client.
Right,
that
okay.
client is just an H223 control client through the 1X mobile.
So with SIP, you don't need the 1X mobile server.
Correct. So in the later examples, then you're natively SIP. So no 1X mobile server, everything is SIP.
Now, does the session border controller need to be Acme Packet, or does it work with other third-party SBCs?
It can be third-party. It can be.
You gotta make the body pitch now.
We'd like for it to be. We'd like for it to be the Avaya session border controller, right? Which is the one we acquired through the Supera acquisition. Okay.
Optimized for Avaya, I'm sure.
I beg your pardon?
Optimized for Avaya.
Of course, optimized. Yeah. Through Aceman came and waved his powers and optimized it, right?
Well, sure, you could use somebody else's.
But you could use somebody else's, but
You could
you
use
know,
Superior.
Gretchen and Tom and Jack and I, we gotta feed our children, so we would like you to use our Supera solution, right? Our session border control, but it doesn't happen. The world is not perfect.
That was good, Carter. That's a lunch, bud.
So now, if you can indulge me here for a few more minutes here, I want to show you something. So let's just say, what if? Okay? So we saw all these people coming into this bookstore, right? So obviously that takes effort, that takes fuel, that takes whatever else it takes, right? So what if we could take the bookstore?
Yeah, you gotta find it after with a hangover.
Yeah, that's hard to do, right? So what if we could take the store book to them, right? Not bookstore, store book. Is this possible? Yes, it is possible through our Web Alive application. Okay, Web Alive, in case you don't know, in case you haven't heard of